Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Daniel Dotse. I'm the founder and chief executive of Lead for Ghana. Lead for Ghana is a leadership development organization developing the next generation of leaders to expand education opportunity to all children in Ghana. I'm very happy and excited to be moderating this session. It's a session that comprises of, I think, 7 speakers, teachers, and thinkers who are tackling some of the major challenges in education of today's world. To give you a brief background on how the session is going to look like, we're going to have these speakers present their ideas. They will each have 5 minutes to do so. We have some juries here, and they are going to give them feedback and advice on their ideas. And after everyone has presented, the jury will deliberate and tell us who the winning pitch is. Okay? I don't want to promise too much, but I expect this to be quite exciting. I expect this to be a good learning experience for all of us. So without further ado, I want to introduce our jury today. Today we have Daisy Mertens, a Dutch primary teacher and winner of the 2016 National Primary Teacher Award in the Netherlands. We have John Yearwood, President and CEO of Yearwood Media Group. We have which is a global consulting and content creation firm. We have Nisha, Ligon, CEO of Ubongo, Africa's leading kids entertainment company, and a 2017 WISE Award laureate. And last but not the least, we have Dumur, is the CEO of OVA, a company which produces products and content relating to virtual and augmented reality. Okay, so let's get started. Our very first innovator for today is Stéphane Coillet-Matillon, CEO of KIWIX, an offline reader that distributes internet content to millions with no internet access. Please join me on stage.
Thank you.
You need a clicker?
No, I don't need a clicker. I work like this. Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. We'll start with a very simple problem. There are 4 billion people in this world that still do not have internet access. So you do have internet access, and you don't. Actually, a little more like 50%. It is a problem. There are many reasons for that. It could be cost, like data is expensive. Could be infrastructure. You're lost in the middle of nowhere, or you're in a rural region, and there's no connectivity whatsoever. Or it could also be because of censorship. If you look across to Iran, it's been 10 days, they don't have any internet there. So you need to work something out. The thing is, right now, that is very important. Why is this important in education in particular? It is because when I was a kid, I would go to school, I'd spend my day at school, and I'd learn stuff by heart. But right now, today, when everything you need ever to learn will be at the tip of your fingers, then it's irrelevant. You will forget more than there's ever possible to ever learn. So the thinking in education is switching from learning things to learning to think. That is, if you have connectivity and you can afford that data and that knowledge. If you don't, then you're going behind. And then you'll tell me, yes, but we'll catch up. Eventually, everybody will be connected. But let me remind you, it's been 30 years for the richest half in the world to be connected. So how long do you think it will take for the bottom half to be connected? How long will it take for those people? So that bottom half is 30 years behind. So in education, we really are at that intersection where some are unlearning and relearning, whereas the others are stuck in the past. So there's a gap we need to bridge. But let's forget about the internet. In a way, it's a means. It's a means to an end, which is bringing content so you can learn. When we started KIWIX, we were like, okay, so some people won't have internet, or at least not in the near future, and we need to solve that issue. So what do? We looked at people and we're like, okay, everyone has a smartphone now, or at least a phone, and it's getting smarter every day, and there's storage on it. So what if we take that content and put it there? Then you don't need to be online anymore. You just have it there. So KIWIX, we created, is a library of content. Basically, it works offline. We take content wherever it is. We make a copy of it. We make sure it works offline. And the experience is exactly the same as being connected. But you're not. Obviously, I don't speak Chinese. I don't speak Arabic. I don't speak Spanish. I do speak Spanish, actually. But if I were to create content in Spanish, then I wouldn't be able to create content in English because I wouldn't have that time. So what we do is that we take content from wherever it exists. We provide Wikipedia, we have Khan Academy, we have OpenEdX, anything that's on the web we can provide. So we are not a content provider, we're the internet provider. Literally, we provide the internet to those that have no internet access. And that is the business model. What we do is that whoever wants to do a deployment, they come to us, they say, okay, here's my problem, and we have the solution. Because everyone has a different problem, everyone needs a different solution, and we won't be able to create an ad hoc solution for everyone. So they will take an existing solution, and we'll just be the carrier for that solution. So here's the ask. We have 3 million users already, 3 to 4 million users. And in 5 years' time, we probably will be around 100 millions. That's only 2% of the population that's offline. So it's not that big, an ambition. It is ambitious, but it's realistic, surprisingly realistic. So if you have content, come and talk to me because we know how to bring your content. If you have a deployment and a connectivity issue, then you probably want to come and talk to me because I may have a solution to that connectivity issue. And if you want to help a project that scales, if you have like loads of millions you want to share it to someone, then probably you want to talk to me because as many use cases as there are in the world, we have that solution. Because if you're ever wondering what the impact of the internet is, then probably we shouldn't have that conversation to start with. Thank you.
You might want to keep the mic just in case you want to answer
questions.
Yeah. You have 5 minutes for this session. And anyone can start.
Ooh.
Okay, it sounds life-changing for the people in the areas where there's no internet. I'm really flabbergasted about this idea. I had a question, because as I am a teacher, we do have apps. Maybe this is a really strange question because it's very easy for you to answer, but we have like apps, and there are methods who create apps, and for children, and then we have some sort of not an online but on intranet we have those games and programs. Can you also bring it to them too?
Yeah. Are you thinking of Scratch, for instance?
Sorry?
Scratch?
Yeah,
it's a thing.
for
Yeah.
example.
Okay. So Scratch, yeah. Definitely we can. Basically what the technology does is like let Scratch pretend or think it's online, but all the information that Scratch needs or needs to store, it's local. So at the end of the day, the way, I won't spend time explaining how a server works, but we create a mini server on your phone or on your computer on a hotspot, like $30 Raspberry hotspot, and then that serves the whole classroom. But then the program itself is just software. It's pretty stupid, so it will think it's local.
Okay.
Good idea.
Thank you.
My question, if you're focusing on the folks who are at the bottom of the income scale, what kind of charges? How much is this going to cost? Will they be able to afford it?
So it's free. Okay. It's 100% free. There's no catch.
So
the users
are
not the clients. Okay. The users are users, and they wouldn't be able to afford them, and it would be right to ask them for money anyway. So the clients are actually people doing the deployments, like foundations. I run a school or a bunch of schools somewhere. I need to have a solution. Can you customize? Can you put that content that is unavailable yet or that is proprietary into your library? Then I will pay for that, or they will pay us for that. So really the intermediaries, the people doing deployments, that are the ones that have connectivity issues for education, they will pay. Your microphone is off.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. This is really exciting to hear as someone who does content for a lot of these off-grid and communities who don't have access. Love the idea. Would love to hear how is it different from, there seem to be a lot of different solutions out there trying to do something like this, say Colibri or Brick or many people, Allison with similar solutions. What is it that sets yours apart?
Because they use our solution, like literally.
Okay.
Like Rachel, Colibri, we work with them. They usually integrate some of the content because a lot of people that are working in offline space, they design a solution like Khan Academy, for instance, and they focus on that. Their job is to do Khan Academy, and then they work on providing it offline. I'm content, I don't have any choice. I provide a solution, a platform, but then I don't focus on CAN or anything else.
So you're just doing the software, and is that for free then for anyone to use for their own deployments?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very much like Moodle, if you know the system. It's free.
Okay.
So yeah, great speech there. I love the scalability of your products. So 4 million user, right? But at the end of the day, it's a B2B business model. So how does it work? Actually, you didn't quite answer. I mean, it's free for the user, but a foundation that will use it. How is this per month? Is this recurring revenue?
So it really depends on what they want. There's different income streams. So if you want to convert your revenue, your content to offline, that's a one-off thing.
Yeah.
But then if you want to do the updates, then that's a recurrent. It's very simplified. There are more options, but that's the generic idea.
Okay, and how do you do your sales? I mean, how do you will convince?
Well, if you need to convince a foundation that has 100,000 or 200,000 or 1 million users, then at the end of the day, you just convince one guy with a checkbook.
Yeah.
So that's easier than going to 1 million person asking them for a cent.
Perfect. So, and how big is your team now?
We have 7 people.
Okay.
And we're expanding every day. If you know C++ coder, I recruit.
Okay, good. Yeah, and since we have 2 seconds, where are you based for
Switzerland?
Switzerland. Okay, cool.
So only users in Switzerland are in prison, actually. Because there's no internet.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stéphane. Okay. Our second speaker is Khalifa. She's a community organizer and founder of Safe Space. Please, Khalifa, this is all yours. Go. You need a clicker? No, you just speak.
Just put it here.
Do you need a clicker or no?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Khalifa. I'm from Qatar. If you asked me 10 years ago where I would be today, I would not have answered speaking at Wise. I would have probably said nowhere. I had a lot of darkness, a lot of depression that I had to struggle with. Ironically, around the same time, I was also a photo in a college brochure. And I remember fake smiling for the camera on the campus lawn, and the photographer was like, "Smile, use your hands." And I became just like every other depressed undergraduate that exists. Sorry, I'm just gonna take this off because it's really weird. Yeah, so I'm here to talk about depression and mental health. My innovation is not so much an innovation as it is just kind of relearning an ancient practice called community care, how to take care of each other. After being depressed, fast forward 10 years, I learned the vocabulary, worked really hard on myself, and I started Safe Space. So Safe Space is a community, or Safe Space is an educational collective. And what that means is we are a collective of people from the community, and sorry, I'm nervous. So basically, we're an educational collective that talks about mental health. We provide free peer-to-peer counseling for youth in Qatar specifically. This is not a global thing. It's not a for-profit thing. We talk about issues that are socially, culturally, and religiously taboo here, and sometimes illegal. So it can range from anxiety and exam stress all the way to suicidal ideation. When I did a lot of digging and research, it's a very under-researched area, mental health in the Gulf. But more so, whatever research we do have is not accessible. A few months ago, though, the first time, research was published about Qatar and suicide attempts. So in 1 year, the data was from 2011, but for some reason it was just published now. In 1 year, 165 people presented to the emergency room for suicide attempts. Of the 165, and this is in a small country like Qatar, of the 165, 47 of them were near fatal, deliberate self-harm. So that's like a medical term for they almost succeeded. That's 30%. And then the actual like total number and percentage of suicide attempts in Qatar is 3.5 times higher than the global average of the time. I could throw a bunch of statistics at you, but they're very disturbing. Very difficult to talk about. Probably like technically not allowed to talk about it right now. But I have to. Everything that we talk about is closed, it's anonymous, peer-to-peer. It basically teaches the community how to take care of each other. So what I offer is free mental health and abuse, domestic violence, all these things, support for the community, and it's specifically aimed at people of color, locals, youth, and that's what we do. We basically teach the community how to verbalize and how to take care of each other. And it's not a social innovation. It's just something that we've forgotten with capitalism. Everything is for profit anymore. And I just feel very strongly that if I get a chance to speak about it and raise awareness about it, that somebody would come and sponsor it so that it remains free for the youth who cannot afford it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just put my headphones on.
Thank you so much. I feel your emotion.
Yeah.
So proud that you are standing here, even if you're nervous. So, yeah, deep respect
Thank you.
for this.
It's difficult to do an elevator pitch in 5 minutes about something like this.
Yeah,
It's hard.
can imagine. Yeah. I had a question. How many people are attending the?
They're made to be small groups because it's such a difficult thing for our community. We live in such a small town community. We start off, so it's monthly, and we have a women's only one, and then a mixed male and female one. Each one is about 12. A lot more sign up, but we only do groups of 12 because it's easier to get personal on a smaller level.
And how many people are working together with you to do this?
A lot of people. A lot of people volunteer. Psychologists volunteer. Psychology students, college students volunteer, all for free. Everybody's helping for free. So.
Okay, seems like you're making a difference here.
Trying.
Thank you very much. It certainly touched me, and listening to what you were saying. I'm wondering, are you localized to Qatar at this point? Are you thinking about are you thinking about expanding to other areas in the Gulf?
To be honest, I think everybody
just
needs to focus on their own place. I know this is counterintuitive, but if people in Africa can worry about Africa, then we're going to be okay. And it's just that first, people need to care. Governments need to care. Institutions need to care. Places of profit need to care about places that are not making enough money. So I'm focused on here because this is where I can make a difference, and this is my home. It's none of my business what anybody else's problems are. To a certain extent, I will say that.
And this is free?
Yes, it's free.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing and bringing your passion around this. I'm curious, are there anything that you would hope to see change in kind of the environment that you're operating in that would help you to grow this program and make sure that the people who really need access to what you're providing are able to get it?
Well, I would say I really would love to see more research. I would love to see the research that exists to be open to the public so that I don't have to scratch at it. I would love more transparency because that's what the UN has asked for. That's all I can say without getting in trouble.
Good job for that, actually. Same as my colleague touching. And we have done some work at my startup on mental health within virtual reality, helping people with burnout and schizophrenia. Every time it involves a lot of regulation. So I was wondering, you just told that you work with psychologists, but how do you deal with regulation around that?
I can't tell you.
Okay, good. So my last question actually is, there is a lot also of grant. Right now, mental health is, I think, a world issue that people look after. Is there some grant here, or are you looking for that as well to fund your
With
venture?
grants come a lot of regulations. You would know that. Anything that has strings attached doesn't belong here until they start changing policies and legal what's the word? Legal infrastructure and system. So in order for the community care like this to be effective, there also needs to be systemic and institutional care that people need to step up and change. So we need private funding or just for people to like change things. Everybody needs to be accountable for their own thing, basically. That's it.
Okay, but there is no public funding for health.
There is, and it's very widely talked about in a very diluted form, just like it is globally. I mean, you can look and like at pictures of mental health on Instagram and learn all of these fancy words, but in the end, what do you know and what are you doing? That's the question. Are you doing the work? Are you doing the unglamorous work? Or are you just talking about it and doing nothing? There's a difference between talking and action. There's a difference between raising awareness and still upholding all of the cultural stigmas and then not. Especially here, there's a lot of mental health issues that are because of social issues that are not being addressed, yeah? Like domestic violence.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Sorry.
No, that's good. That answers my question.
Thank you so much, Khalifa. That's a very powerful presentation. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, and our third speaker for the day, is Munir Nabti. David is the founder and CEO of Pitchworthy, an online platform for project-based learning program. David, can you please join me on stage?
Okay, awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Munir Nabti. I run startup programs. I've been running startup programs in Lebanon and the region for about the last 13 years. And we've had a lot of great energy and success in the process. So we've been running startup programs in a fairly sort of traditional startup way, boot camps, accelerators, etc. It was a lot of fun. It was very impactful. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we've worked with around 330 early stage startups, mostly in Lebanon, and largely around these threads of inclusive entrepreneurship. How can we reach broader communities, people outside of main cities, people who are from different backgrounds, refugees, migrants, marginalized communities, women, youth, people who face other constraints, and sort of the normal ecosystem processes. And I think we've done a pretty good job of trying to build in these cycles of learning, these loops of learning to improve our programs, to make them more effective. If we think that normal accelerators operate like 2 cycles a year, if they're improving at that rate, then their cycle of learning is going to be twice per year. Now, in our programs, we set it up so that we were running 5 to 7 cycles per year, sometimes overlapping, and we were doing a lot of experimentation to learn and to continuously improve our programs. Now, within that, though, is we realized that even at the rate that we were working to improve and grow, even if we improved 10x. If we went from 330 teams in 5 years to 3,300 teams in 5 years, is that still would be much too slow compared to the challenges that we face in the region. And we've been talking about these challenges for a long time: the youth bulge, climate change, macroeconomic shifts largely driven by technology, etc. We have these 2 very divergent views of where the region and the world might go in the next 5, 10, 15 years. One of them very dark, and one of them very bright. And one of the key elements at that point of divergence is, how do we build dynamic ecosystems? How do we build dynamic support for entrepreneurship, innovation, change makers, both in the private sector and in the public sector? So a few years ago, we took a step back. We decided to try different approaches outside of our sort of the traditional in-person approaches. We started running programs online with the goal of running programs online, breaking down barriers of geography, and we want these programs to be even more effective than in-person programs. Can they be more fun online? Can the startup programs be more effective in startup support, entrepreneurship support, mentoring, etc., when we're providing them virtually versus offline? And we've had a fair bit of success with that with those tests as well. So we continued evolving. And we started looking at these 4 pillars. Could we develop a new system that addresses these 4 requirements? One, could this have massive reach? Instead of working with hundreds of people per year, could we be working with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people per year? The second, can it be dynamic? Can we be even more effective in reaching more diverse groups, refugees, migrants, mobile communities, women, youth, etc., all around the region and globally? Third is, whatever we provide has to be of the highest quality. Right now, startups around the world are competing with Silicon Valley, with Boston, with London, etc., from a very early stage because tech is global. And so the support we provide has to be on par with the support coming out of London, Boston, Silicon Valley, etc. And then the fourth requirement was that we had to be able to provide the support at a vastly lower cost per unit gain, whether we're talking about startup supported, job created, enterprise created, or quantified learning, sort of how people are actually learning these skills. And the output of various tests and designs, etc., is the Pitchworthy platform, which we're using now. Now, the Pitchworthy platform includes a few different components. On the one side, it's a team management tool, a project management tool like many people might be familiar with. But the Pitchworthy platform is optimized to help small teams and startups. Oh, shit. Okay, I'll race through this really fast. Sorry. Team platform, optimized for teams and learning. Plus, we're working on building in psychometrics and aspects related to Facebook, these tricks that Facebook and Instagram are using to have addictive platforms into a learning tool. The second side is a platform for programs and for communities. So how can we give program managers and mentors superpowers to be more effective, to more efficiently provide support to a larger number of people, also at distance, and leveraging both psychometric data sets and the platform tools itself. And also, we look at the skills for entrepreneurship education as incredibly valuable for employability and for life skills beyond that. The platform is now in use. We're using it, and we're looking at ways that we can scale. We're looking for partners, for mentors, for implementers, for people interested in research related to psychometrics and soft skills development, and integrating that into platforms and funding, and working to see how we can scale this globally. Thank you. Sorry for racing through and being late.
It's okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's not my core business, this. So I have maybe a question for myself, but really has something to do with education. How do you assess the impact of the development of the team members or the individuals in the team?
Perfect. And you're a teacher, right, as I understood it?
Mm-hmm.
So actually how we see this, and if I can go back here, so we see entrepreneurship in this dual lens of what we call sort of an output-oriented process. So actual enterprise creation, jobs created, or if it's social entrepreneurship, the impact from those enterprises. But we also see entrepreneurship education as a methodology of engaged participatory learning. Mm-hmm. And again, going back to these elements here of the skills that we consider part of entrepreneurship are skills that educators around the world are trying to cultivate. And so we do see this as a project-based learning platform. And since people learn better in communities, in teams, is that's embedded into this framework, is this idea of project-based learning. So we think that this could be used in accelerators by investors and as well by university or high school teachers. Now, in terms of the metrics that we use for quantified learning, so there are a few different things that we're using for that. We're using some global standards around character strengths, some globally validated studies around assessing character strengths, and then how character strengths correlate to entrepreneurial success. So this chart here, it lists the top 5 character strengths that correlate with entrepreneurial success: honesty, leadership, zest, fairness, gratitude. And then we specifically adapt our programs to help cultivate these and other skills. So we use this as a guide for us and for teachers to use to spark these discussions with their teams about what character strengths they want to be developing. And then we have specific activities that groups can use to cultivate these skills and then measure them sort of at various times throughout the program. Pre, midterm assessment, post-assessment, etc. And then also we're looking, so we measure character strengths, soft skills assessments, and then also we're using some interesting data around mental complexity, which basically asks this question of what do you do when you don't know what to do? And how people answer that question gives a lot of insight into how they think, how they see self-agency, etc. And then also there's this really interesting sort of foundational element around this difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset, and we're looking to see how we can integrate that more into the platform and methods as well.
Thank you.
Well, good idea. In fact, I was thinking you can also use it in the classroom, to some of your students. But I'm wondering, you said you've raised, I think, 3.5 million. Is that in the MENA region, or are you also looking at trying to raise outside the region as well?
So this is not money that we have raised. So we run projects, and we have actually been trying our hardest to not take venture capital, because we have both a for-profit side and a non-profit side, but we don't want the for-profit side to be profit maximizing, and so we don't want to take venture capital because we don't want to be pushed into that cycle of changing our values to fit the needs of investors, etc. So we've been fully bootstrapped so far, except for some project-based funds that we then try to devote whatever we can of our own funding into further building out the platform. This is funds that our startups have raised in Lebanon and the region. That was just one of the markers of success. So it's only a partial marker, because a lot of teams also don't want to raise capital. But it's just one of the things, like in the startup world, that shows that it's external validation. And so this is what we've been looking at, ways that we can get external validation. Of course, for enterprises, the main mechanisms of validation are they surviving? Are they profitable? Are they growing? Do they have employees? Are they having impact of their social enterprise? So we're working to strengthen those metrics. These are sort of intermediate metrics, shall we say.
Great, thanks. I think we're short on time, so I'll keep it brief. You said you wanted it to be more effective than the in-person programs. Have you found that it is, and have you stopped doing in-person?
Yeah, we have found that that we can run higher quality programs online than purely offline programs, and this largely relates to for these programs, they're heavily reliant on who are the mentors and the trainers. And in developing ecosystems, there's just a very short supply of very high-quality mentors and trainers. So by being able to connect them with mentors and trainers around the world, plus the aspects of data, is that it enables us to run these high-quality programs.
So really quickly, because time is over, but did you raise the money on the accelerator/program part, or on the SaaS platform you built? So what did you pitch back then when you raised?
So running programs. So some of the programs that we have run, there was funding attached to it for the startups to get funding. We've run accelerator programs, but we're not running an ongoing accelerator program at this point. Our preference is to move towards a SaaS model, so that we run fewer and fewer. Like this coming year, we're going to be launching 4 programs ourselves that we're using to further refine the platform and to put more into the development and refinement. But we're trying to shift to the other side of being basically like a TOT platform, a SaaS provider, to hopefully in the coming years work with hundreds or thousands of teachers or accelerator managers, etc., and to provide them better support that they can run higher quality programs through the platform.
Okay, are you not scared about SNI and all that stuff? I know you got added value on top of that, but what do you think? What's your SNI or Jira or Trello or?
Look, maybe. Although we're kind of niche in terms of the sense. Of course, some of them could move into the space.
But they could acquire you. So
they could.
Also,
it would have to be a very interesting offer for them to acquire, because we don't actually want to be acquired. But yeah, somehow. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
Really
Thank
good.
you all.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. And I can grab this from you as well. Thanks. Our next speaker is Azwa Nayeem. She's the founder and chairperson of the Alokito Foundation, which aims to create future change makers with the power of 21st century education. Please take the stage. Do you need a clicker? Okay.
Hi everyone. Alokito Hridoy means enlightened soul. And essentially we set out on our journey to improve the quality of education in Bangladesh by constantly learning and unlearning from our errors and shortcomings. Our journey began within the boundaries of our school that acts as an education research lab for us so that we can have more informed evidence-based teacher development approaches. Our journey essentially began with the struggle to transform Shamima, a locally recruited teacher, into an empathetic mentor to her students. Shamima was a staunch advocate of corporal punishments. The slightest errors from her students would earn them a beating. And she's a representative of several teachers in the rural parts of Bangladesh. We realized that mere workshop sessions, training sessions were not sufficient to change her mindset. So we paired that up with classroom mentoring. And gradually, by spending time with her, by practicing empathy, by modeling empathy, we saw Shamima transform into a friend to her teachers. And now, collaborative learning, problem solving, and novelty are some of the features that enhance Shamima's teaching. But then we asked, what about the other teachers? We cannot bring about a big change with just change within the boundaries of our school. So armed with the success that we found in our school, we went ahead, we went beyond the walls of our school and partnered with the government to test and model our education, our teaching approaches in government school with the hope of scaling it there. When we went to the government school, we faced strong resistance from the teachers who barely believed in our training abilities and even less in our approaches. We scrapped all our plans, we stepped back, and we practiced empathy. We learned from the teachers and gradually mentored them to apply our game-based and problem-based teaching approaches in their classroom. When we saw the students light up with excitement and absenteeism rate going down, and when we saw the students actively taking part in learning, some of these teachers actually turned into our strongest advocates from being our strongest critiques. But then we asked ourselves, what about the 48% of the teachers that the World Bank identifies as poorly trained or untrained? Such teachers are unable to nurture adept students, and over 75% of the students completing grade 5 in my country are unable to read, write, or do basic math. So that's when we created a combination of our online and offline teaching approaches. We created an online course and made it available on the government platform. We reached about 1,000 teachers through that. And then, was that enough? We asked ourselves, what about the private school teachers? When we spread our wings further and went to the private schools, we saw that no teaching certification was required to be a teacher. That means 10 students sitting in a room with 10 different learning requirements, the teacher is not able to address that. More than 50% of the teachers have no training in English and math. More than 75% of the teachers have no training in science subjects. That's when we created online toolkits that is able to assess a teacher at their existing knowledge level and provide them resources to upskill accordingly. So now with our online courses, online toolkits, and our offline mentoring approaches, we launched our teachers platform. This is essentially a gamified digital marketplace for the 21st century teachers. What it does is there are 4 essential features of the website. First is it can assess a teacher at their existing skill and knowledge level and provide them resources to upskill accordingly. Secondly, it incentivizes best sharing practices. All the resources that are available on the website are not ours. The teachers, after getting initial certification, can share and sell resources to other teachers, so thereby instilling a culture of getting certification. Thirdly, to add a gamified touch to the website, there are leaderboards and there are rating systems. The leaderboards are based on the marks that the teachers achieve from completing courses and toolkits, and the ratings are given to the teachers by other teachers based on the resources that they've bought from them. Finally, to make the outcome more meaningful, we've brought the schools and education institutions on the same platform to be able to post job advertisements so that the teachers can apply to those job advertisements on the same platform. With our offline and online teaching approaches, teacher development approaches, we have reached over 1,250 teachers who have gone on to impact over 10,000 students. I'm here to pitch my idea, to get feedback from you so that I can expand, so that I can grow this digital platform based on lifelong learning, so that we can nurture, we can support the teachers to become the banks of the future, where the currency to survive and thrive will be essentially the quality to unlearn and relearn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Azwa. Before the jury comes in, you need a... Okay. I would like us to keep the feedback very succinct and the questions to just one question, because we want to get out of here and make it to the plenary for the final session. So.
Yes, thank you so much. I always say when I have all the money in the world and when I'm Minister of Education, I put all my money in teacher development. I think because it's really needed. I was wondering, you said it in one of your first sentences, to learn empathy to teachers. How do you learn empathy to teachers through a digital platform?
I kept mentioning over and over again that with our offline and online teacher development approaches, I'm not a believer of strict online teaching approaches or teacher development approaches. We have classroom mentoring, where after a teacher takes up an online course, they have an added classroom mentoring session where we go into their classrooms, we help model the new teaching approaches or empathy that we've talked about in the training session.
Is this, thanks by the way for your presentation. Is this something that's something similar is being done, or is it being modeled off on something else that's out there?
It's a lot of teacher platforms are there, but what we have done is we've integrated a lot of things here. We've gone back to the teachers, we've taken their feedback, and we've continuously been unlearning and relearning, and we've been customizing the website. This caters to the needs of the teachers in my country, to make lifelong learning more meaningful, to make professional development more meaningful. The features that we have added makes this platform different, starting from leaderboard to rating system to eventually getting a job. So with all of those features added, this platform is unique.
So have you gotten any feedback? You kind of started on the side of the, having empathy within the classroom and the students. Have you managed to get any feedback from students and how their learning experience has changed thanks to their teachers' experience on the platform?
Thank you so much. We do have kind of a three-pronged evaluation system where we provide the students with feedback forms, and the students can provide feedback on the teachers anonymously. Not the trainers, neither teachers are present in the classroom when the students are giving their feedback. So yes, we have been evaluating empathy and practice of empathy in the classroom.
Good, thanks. Tell me one thing, is your market only restricted where teachers are beating their student, or it goes over that? I mean, is it restricted to a certain cultural market?
Right. I'm not sure if I understand your question correctly, but I'll try to answer it. So beating is illegal in my country, but it's prevalent practice in some of the rural parts of my country.
Okay.
And it's kind of normalized that way. So it goes up till beating. So sometimes the teachers would ask the students to bring canes. To different students are given responsibilities of bringing different kinds of canes to the classroom, which they know will be later used for beating them up.
Gotcha. But apart that, my other question, you said you got 1,200 users right now. So how does it work?
So we have trained 1,250 teachers. We have catered to 1,250 teachers. At this point on the web platform, we have about 100 teachers.
On the business model. So what is the revenue model?
Right. So the revenue model is the revenue comes from the job placements that the schools post. The revenue comes from the courses and toolkits that the teachers buy. Okay. And right now we haven't installed any subscription model. We will be eventually. And so the subscription will be giving us back the revenue. And also, in the schools that are relatively more privileged, that are from privileged part of the society, we charge them fees. So we get fees for providing teacher development programs and mentoring to schools. And we waive the fees for the underprivileged schools.
Got it. So it's a marketplace strategy right now, and you want to move to recurring revenue per month.
Right.
Okay.
Eventually, for it to self-sustain, but then again, keeping in mind that the schools and the students who are more in need of it and are not able to afford it are given
of course. No, this is great. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's just amazing. Thanks. Oh, thank you. Our fifth speaker for today is Amir Zarkesh, who is the CEO and co-founder of Polyup, a free and open computational thinking platform and playground. Yeah, clicker?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. We are getting to the end of the program, so hopefully it will not be as boring, and we'll have a little bit fun here. So what I'm going to talk about is a journey that happened over the past 4 years. It started from a math teacher in Stanford, actually, that was writing a book about creative problem solving and how to bring it to K-12. And in the process of publishing that, was looking for some student that is native in English. It was in US, and a student joined, a 9th grader, and together they rewrote the book. And the prof said that he wants to have a very interactive environment to do that. That was 4 years ago. About 3 years making 4 generations of prototypes, going more than 120 schools in North and Southern California, end up to build a platform that came out in January of this year. And from January 7th to end of May, this is the map that happened. So every dot that you see here is where Polyup is getting used by teachers and students. There was $0 in marketing spent. It gone by teachers to other teachers. And it went from every state in US down to New Zealand at the end. We had so much traffic that we end up to have the servers down for 3 weeks from February 15 to March 7, and we had to do the scaling that we usually do in a year or year and a half down the road in actually after a month and a half. The vision has been to empower a global community of creative problem solvers. And, it's kind of ironic that, this is my 7th company, that all other 6 were not in education. It's an amazing opportunity in education. And yet you see that edtechs have a severe problem with scaling. The problem happens is how you bring a platform that in learning, not just learning management, but in actual learning, it scales from kindergarten to 12th grade. How you bring a gamified approach, which is not chocolate-covered broccoli, not having a game that you put the broccoli of learning inside, and the kids that are smart, as soon as they bite on it, they hit the broccoli, they throw it away. How you solve that problem? To the point that you cannot go like district, 1 district, 3 district, 5 district, and then the fourth year you die. There are many issues with EdTech. So we were lucky enough that we hit a platform that actually solved the issue of dealing with jobs of 21st century from kindergarten to 12th grade in the same unified platform. We don't hide the math, we put it front and center, but we make the point of engagement to be the aha moment of solving the problem. And the most important thing is make what they learn relevant. I always say that the problem is we say to the kids, you go to a good school, good university, get a good job, you get a good pay. And at 10 years old, just watching you say, what are you talking about? 15 years down the road, there's no meaning to me. And if you can change that to be the case that actually by doing something you can change things around you now, it becomes relevant. So here I will show you an example video of what a 5th grader does on Polyup in a set of what we call weekly challenges that right now is happening in 6 countries, from US, Oman, Azerbaijan, Palestine, Spain. And these are the type of activities that the kids do using the curriculum items like the fraction and percent that they learned this week to some of the largest issues that globally is important.
Let's go to the first chip and try it out. Till 2100, what percent of global fossil fuel energy should turn to renewables? Okay, what it's currently doing is it's subtracting the amount we are currently using by the amount of maximum we can use to find out how much we need to decrease. And the percentage change we need is 81%. Guys, if you realize this, 81% change is like what an F on a math test turning into something awesome, like an A- or an A. That's how bad our previous generations have done. So we need to start collaborating and working on this ASAP.
So that was an example you saw as of the version 1 was last year, and actually this week we are releasing the second version that it connects it to robotics and all the jobs of 21st century. Again, if this goes down, I'm going to be able to show it. Okay. So this environment is like a Minecraft. You can build a full robot. Every element is done by math. There is no programming. It's highly equitable, accessible. This is a robot that the kids make go around and move their hand. It scales here. The goal is to build a robot hand that waves to poly. This is from 1st to 2nd grade. They just move it. When they learn angles, the 3rd to 5th grade, they change the angle. In middle school and high school, they use sine and cosine. It goes to robotics. You can have a full robotics environment, all virtual at zero cost. And even is not a STEM, is a STEAM. You can connect the math to the art. So I will stop here. Thank you.
I think I'm going to give the jury 4 minutes to handle this one.
Okay, thank you so much. Very interesting. As I am a grade 5 teacher, I was looking to the question and I was like, oh my God, I really don't know if my kids could handle that assignment. So my question is, how do you manage the different curriculums of different countries, and how do you manage the different learning levels of children? Because you have children who are more practical, and then you have the highly gifted children who probably could make this assignment. But how do you,
Well, thank you.
handle that?
Very important question. So today we are getting use from refugee camps in Palestine to the top private school in Silicon Valley, all range, even school children with school need. The secret is there is no best curriculum or best book. What you should do, education is diverse, you have to embrace it, and what you do is let community to put their own content up. So what you saw wasn't an assignment. What you saw was what the 5th grader found herself, put the question, make the solution, turn it to a puzzle and share it with others to solve. So every community, right now as I said, we are in 30 countries, as you saw in the map. They bring their own content, their own level, their own interest, and they share it with others.
You're in 30 countries. Which country do you have the largest amount of users?
In US and in Palestine.
Is this free for users and teachers, and what's the business model behind it?
Very good. Yes, it is free for all the schools and students. The model is Minecraft model. It's free to use for a school. And there are some features which if the parents want, they optionally pay. It's a $12 billion market. It's a huge market. And we have an extremely good entry to that. Also, organization buy bulk packages. We are already a revenue company with a very healthy revenue.
Yeah, I can tell, and wow, congrats on that traction and that scalability, and also achieving this product. Just for my personal knowledge, how long it took to create it?
Well, actually, took long. It is a spin-off of Stanford. Then it's about 2.5 years only R&D, and we did not go to production. We're a very small team, and the secret is try and try and try in the field. It's not something you can build in lab. Teachers are critical in this. Mm-hmm. And this is a teacher helping environment. Is not an environment to replace teacher. Is just misnomer trying to do that. And even today is like a movement. Really, the teachers are giving constant feedback and making this better.
Yeah, I do believe in content creation tool. So did you raise money from that?
Yes, we raised $3 million for seed round. We are going to close Series A in about a month and a half from the start of the new year. We are going to raise a large A round.
Can you tell how much you are raising for your A round?
We are going to raise 10 million.
Okay, good. And what are the ARR right now?
Okay, so we are using WebXR. We are waiting for the Google's WebXR.
I mean the annual recurring revenue.
Oh, recurring.
Yeah.
I heard the AR. Sorry.
ARR. Yeah.
The recurring revenue this year we have close to 500,000. Next year should be 3.5.
Wow. Congrats. Okay, cool.
Very much. This is really fascinating. Thank you so much. Our speaker for the day is Talene Sabella. She's the Research and Program Development Manager at the Queen Rania Foundation for Education and Development in Amman. Can you please join us?
40% of caregivers in Jordan never read to their children. 50% of them have never played sports or active games with their children. And 55% of them totally or somewhat believe that parental care at home has limited impact on their child's development. Now, given that the first 5 years are foundational to children's development, and given that parents are the first educators, then you can imagine the impact that this has on the child's learning and development. My name is Talene, and I'm from the Queen Rania Foundation. I'm here to pitch a new approach to parent education programs. Now, historically in Jordan, parent education programs have existed since the 1990s. However, these programs were never sustained because they were mostly rooted in the traditional face-to-face model, which is costly and difficult to scale up because it is dependent on government or donor funding. So what can we do differently? We at the Queen Rania Foundation want to tip the traditional model of parent education program on its head. So, in Jordan, 69% of households have access to the internet. And 94% of Jordanians are social media users, with 89% reporting using Facebook on a daily basis. So QRF is leveraging this high penetration of technology and social media use so that we can provide parents with practical tips and information around the areas of child development. Now, it is essential for our theory of change at QRF to gather evidence on what works so that we can maximize impact, which is why we are trying out two approaches or two versions of this approach. The first is the virtual approach or the virtual model, which basically involves setting up a Facebook community group where we have invited mothers and fathers, and we have now over 2,700 people on this group, where we share also videos or informative videos on a weekly basis showing fathers or mothers engaging in small activities with their children, activities around that enrich the everyday life of the child, such as counting as they go up and down the stairs, or talking about plants and ants and animals as they take a walk in the garden. Small activities that are not costly, that are inexpensive, that are very simple, but that enrich the everyday life of the child. Now, each video ends by showing how the activity supports the development of the child. In addition to the videos, we also hold live sessions or online live sessions on Facebook with experts who answer any questions that parents might have, or also provide them with further information around the areas of physical development, language, communication, and more. Now, this is the first model that we're testing. The second model is the blended learning approach, where in addition to the Facebook group, to the informative videos, and also to the live sessions, parents partake in face-to-face training sessions. Now, we have recently completed the first cycle of testing of these two models, and we plan to run them again next year with improvements based on the feedback that we have received. Now, our vision is to equip every parent with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes so that they can be the best parent they can be, which is why we welcome collaboration opportunities and partnerships with others in the region and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Always great to have people who want to develop the parent involvement. Which of the two was more effective?
Well, now the preliminary findings were out literally last Wednesday, but I mean, if I can take your contact details, I'll be able to, share that information with you at a later stage because, we still don't have the final report with us. But again, it really depends. Which model we want to move forward and take for. It really depends on the cost effectiveness, on the parent engagement. But ideally, obviously, the face-to-face model would be better because it's face-to-face. But again, as we've mentioned, we're trying to bridge that gap by providing the online version, or let's say the Facebook group, and trying to take advantage of that. So we'll know more within the next couple of weeks once the final report is out, but I'll be happy to share that with you.
And how many parents are involved in the second model, the blended?
Around 80.
80?
Because we usually, the way we work or the way we operate, we start with a very small pilot. We try to, look at the impact of that, and then we try to scale it up by partnering with local partner, whether it's the Ministry of Education or any other partner.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, are there any concerns about using Facebook or being involved in the Facebook platform?
In what sense?
In terms of privacy issues, among other things, which Facebook is under a global assault for privacy issues, among other things.
I know that we've conducted a couple of focus groups with the parents. I can, if you can give me your contact details, I'll be able to share exactly what they've said in terms of, the platform itself, whether they found it, user friendly, the interactions and everything.
Hello? Yeah, thanks. This is really important work that needs to be done. And you listed some really interesting stats at the beginning of about, less than half of parents being highly engaged in education or, early child development. But I'm curious, how do you know that the programs you're doing are actually reaching that part of the population who's not engaged, as opposed to just bringing more tips and tricks to the parents who are already doing these things with their kids?
That's a very good question. So the way we've recruited the parents on the group is that we have reached out to the Ministry of Social Development, two ministries, the Ministry of Social Development in Amman and also the Awqaf Ministry. And we've basically, through them, we were able to reach the let's say, the most marginalized groups, parents who were interested. And we've also teamed up with an entity in the UK called the Behavioral Insights Team, and they've helped us with the messaging around the program. So we've released, there was a campaign around messaging last year, and we were able to reach as many parents as possible. And those that were interested were the ones who joined the Facebook group, and some of those were the ones who have, took part in the, face-to-face training sessions.
But then you have parents who are not interested, who in many cases are the ones who need this most. How are you going to pull them in?
That's also a very good question, to which I don't have the answer yet. Again, I just want to emphasize that I'm not the lead on this project. I'm just pitching on their behalf.
Actually, we share the same question. But thanks for everything. It's a great project.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very fascinating. Thank you. So our final speaker for the day is Felipe Bertrand. Felipe is a facilitator at the Center for Interdisciplinary Research. Felipe, you ready to go? Yeah. Do you need a clicker?
Hello. Thank you for welcoming me. Actually, I was scheduled for the session at 1:30, but we had the honor to welcome Her Highness to our stand to try our project. So thank you for fitting me in this session. Can I have the...
Yeah, it's right there.
Thank you. So we are here to unlearn and relearn what it means to be human. If I would ask my mother, she'll tell me being human is to recognize humanity in others, no matter how different they are from us. And I'd like to invite you all to imagine, what would the world be like if every single person on planet could follow my mother's advice, if every single person on planet could practice a little bit every day to put themselves in the shoes of each other, could we build a world that is more tolerant, comprehensive, collaborative, fairer, a world that is more human? How would the educational system looks like? Would there be abuse? Would there be bullying? Would it be inclusive to cognitive and cultural diversity? Would the students be able to practice mutual respect? And would teachers be able to understand the social and emotional vulnerability of their students? This world could be achieved through an educational environment that values and promotes empathy. It's a fundamental social skill for the 21st century, but valuing this is not enough. We need concrete pedagogical approaches that create meaningful learning experiences that can engage not only our minds, but our hearts, our bodies, our behavior. Cognitive research have shown that recently that virtual reality can be used to help on that problem, to induce empathy, reduce implicit racial biases, enhance altruistic behavior. Combining these cutting-edge studies with frugal technology, we developed the machine to be another. Just click down, is not clicking, Voila. A system that creates a brain illusion that allows users to feel as if they were in the body of another person for a couple of moments. And by doing so, we teletransport users to the perspective of inhabitants of favelas in Rio de Janeiro, of migrants and refugees searching for a better place to live, of women suffering from gender abuse, of Muslims suffering from prejudice in Europe. These empathic experiences also offer teachers, innovative material to work on history, geography, science, civics, language, among others. It's also designed to allow the creation of local content. For example, in Paris, we are currently producing VR films on bullying, on how it's like to feel as a victim of bullying, or as an observer, or as a teacher. How would we act? More recently, we have also developed a project for the Ministry of National Education in France, targeting now teachers, to help them experience in VR the perspective of students with dyslexia. Not only feeling the difficulties of reading out loud in front of the classroom, but understanding how hostile schools can be for these kids in emotional and social dimension. So as you can see in some of these pictures, the system uses the lowest cost possible VR solution, and we actually engage students to act as guides and as participants. So we have a social experience that can be presented in a higher scale. This disruptive and replicable technology is ready for scaling up with the increased democratization of VR. So we started already, and we're ready to do some more, to implement this in public libraries or libraries of schools, in schools themselves, and in training centers for teachers. And we'd like to invite you all to come and try, but also to take part in this journey of that we can use technology to create an empathic learning environment that can sustain a hopeful 21st century. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was wondering, did you measure how the empathy of the children increased?
Basically, we use systems that have already been measured among adults and children. With the children themselves, we observe very interestingly that if you use VR or use video with the same content, the answers to questionnaires or even to cognitive tests, how much they say they are empathic is kind of the same. But if you go to behavior It's different. People that go into VR, they tend to have like more altruistic behavior like 1 month after. So this was not what we expected. It's kind of like it's the ultimate goal. If you can change behavior at the end of the day, this is actually what can be a game changer.
Okay, and did you get any feedback from the children? What was their experience?
I would say that the most interesting result is actually the observation and the qualitative observation of how they start to engage, incorporate into their speech concepts of empathy, concepts of trying to understand each other, because sometimes one cuts the other, and one reminds, no, but you try to understand. So they really incorporate this into their conversations, and it's fascinating because we started, for example, in one school in Paris, we started with one class, and suddenly we had to do it to 4 classes, and suddenly have to do like to 8 classes, and suddenly the school wants to do for the whole school. They really, really get engaged, because when you do virtual reality, you kind of you mainly use your whole body. So it's not just even a video or an interactive thing. It's a really different form of engagement. They get another interesting thing, like you can even get to get them disciplinated sometimes, because they really focus in trying to do it right, in trying to engage on that.
So are they doing it? They have an one VR glass. Can they interact during the course or what they see? Can they interact in between?
So I have made like different formats, so it's very variable. So we can implement this in the MediaTek, in the libraries and they can go by themselves. But usually it's made for pairs of participants, because you need physical interaction. It's not just seeing. You can touch, you can feel wind, you can feel smell. So to do so, we have another person providing this. So one of the students stand as a guide to provide the physical interaction and take care of the user, and the other is the participant, and then they alternate. So the dynamic is like everyone goes to both of them goes to the same process of the 2 rows, and then they can engage into a conversation. So this could be done. This can be done like in a 50-minute session that you get half class to try, and then the other half class to try, or we can format this in other manners. I have been also integrating this with teachers. So many teachers start a preparation before and continue the discussion after. For example, teachers on civics, you present a film about refugees. They're going to talk about rights of migrants in the country. So yeah, it's providing like a engaging material for teachers also because empathy, unfortunately, is not on the curriculum. So we have to enter into other disciplines.
Well, that's a good question. You sort of answered it with the teacher part, but I'm still not quite sure I understand what the students are looking at.
The students, I wouldn't be able to, I couldn't change. If I could come back on the slides, I could show you the image. Is it possible to come back a little bit? For example, this. This is the image that they see. So when they look down, they have a body. They have to mimic the movement that they see. So in this case, they are a kid from Ivory Coast living in France talking about prejudice. But you stand in his house with his friends, with his brothers. And Ohio, he sees this. This is what's happening. There is a colleague that's actually tapping his hand in real time. Or, for example, this is a scene that we create in Barcelona. It's a project we create in Barcelona with young Muslims reporting scenes of prejudice. So you are in the perspective of this character in a social situation, interacting physically and with the environment. I really would like to invite you to try, because I can speak for hours, but you really have to put it on and get experience. Thank you.
Okay, this is fascinating. Okay, thank you so much. Can we please give me a round of applause? Being a founder and a chief executive myself, there's so much work that goes into putting this presentation and pitches together. So if we can give a round of applause to all our speakers, that would be amazing. So for the next stage, I'll invite the jury to just stand in the corner over there, deliberate for 1 minute, and decide on who is going to be our winning speaker for today.
Okay. We, as a jury, we decided to have two, prizes, yeah, the 2 best pitches, because we have like one pitch that really touches us the most, and we mention it as a encouraging compliment to keep going on with the great work. And we really want to give you the courage prize. Yeah, definitely. And then we think that the best idea, and for us it was the whole package. I think what really touches me the most is the child participation in it, because I was a bit critical about it, because I love to have EdTech in classrooms, but you also need the participation of teachers and children, and that's why we decided to how do I announce it actually? It's not the best pitch, but the pitch we think it was the winner of today was Polyup.
Okay.
He isn't here.
Well, he will get a message. Polyup. Well, he'll get a message. Thank you so much. He will definitely get a message. Yeah.
Polyup. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, it was so difficult because different. It's all different, and also everything is needed.
Yeah.
From the parent involvement to the teacher training to everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's give a round of applause to our jurors. And to say it's not meant to be easy, it's meant to be fulfilling. So, but this is it. This is the closing of the session. I think the final session will be in the plenary. So, thank you so much.